So now we should have your drawing should be to the stage. You should be done with the first stage here, which should look like this other arm that we did. So that's stage one. Now we're going to take this more finishing part of the process and bring it to what we're going to call at this point stage two. What stage two is we're going to start to take the lines that we have here and form them a little bit closer to what the exact or to the original arm are. So that's why it's so important to have the right proportions, the right widths of things, heights, widths, everything like that. Now, to start off with, I'm going to take a really simple area just to begin with. So everyone watch this. If I have a straight line here, which is represented here, and I have a straight line here, which is represented here, and then I have the back of the elbow here, which is a straight line, well, that's curved. In our drawing, that's curved, okay? So I want to curve that now. So all I have to do is use these 1, 2, 3 straight lines as a guide, and I can start to make that curve. Just like we did in the shape replication exercises. Okay, then I can take my eraser, make some corrections to that, erase what I don't need. I'm going to come back in and fix it up a little bit. Now I have the bottom or the back part of that elbow. You're going to find that some of your measurements were off. Some of your basic shapes were off. This is where you start to make those corrections, okay? Like for instance here, I have this back part of the arm just going straight all the way back, but if I look, I can see that this kind of comes down a little bit here. So I want to make sure that I represent that. So I can make that correction, comes down a little bit, then comes across. Let's look at this part of the arm, okay? I have a straight line, a straight line, a straight line. Well, I need to make that a curved line. So again, I'm going to use what I have here as my guide. And it's going to be a little difficult because I don't get to turn my board over. But I'm using what I have as a guide. One thing I can tell you is that students very often try to rush this stage, and that's a bad idea. If you rush through this stage, you're going to find that when we get to the next stage, when we start to put in shadows, that it's actually a lot more difficult. So I want you guys, when you're at this stage of your drawing, to take your time and make all the corrections necessary to bring this arm, the line work in this arm, to a more finished stage. You know, this is just one swoop over, but I'm taking my time to make sure I do it correctly. All right. Same thing here. I can continue straight down. I'm going to use what I have as a guide. One thing I can tell you is that at this point, you don't want to use real dark lines. My lines are a little darker, as always, just so that you guys can see them. But you don't want to use super dark lines. Here I can see that this is just one straight line, but there's some really small, interesting things that are happening in here. If you're looking at your photocopy, you'll see them. So now's the time where I want to make sure I show those really small, interesting things. Even in here, this we drew as a straight line. But if you look, it kind of dips down, then comes back up, then dips down again. We want to be able to show that. And then we want to make corrections with our eraser. All right. Here, we have this as at a point. Okay. If you see this part of your arm, this is at a point, or it should be at a point. We have to make that curved. We have to soften that up, so to speak. So what I'm going to do is just, again, use this as a guide. And I'm going to continue straight through where that's a curve, using that as a guide. And I'm curving it. Using my eraser, taking my time. Same thing here. I can see this is a straight line, but this kind of goes up and then down a little bit. I want to show that. You know, when you start drawing portraits, for example, those little tiny curves are going to be a big deal. It's the difference between making a picture look like the person you're drawing or not. This curves down, up. That finger curves over. That kind of comes in a little bit and then down. I see here that I actually forgot the little thumb. I'm going to put that in there. So this is a real complicated part. I'm going to leave that for a little bit later. I'm going to kind of go back into the rest of this part here and continue that moving forward. So here I can see that this continues out and this curves. This is part of that elbow here. And again, this curves. So now when I get to this is just 1, 2 straight lines, but I can see that this is a big curve and then a lot of stuff happens here. So I'm just going to, again, use this as a guide. I'm not going to draw it all the way down. I'm going to make some corrections first. You know, if you think about it, this long, subtle curved line right here, if you try to draw that just straight out and just draw that, it would be pretty difficult if you're just going to draw it curved right from the beginning. But with those straight lines as your guide, it makes it quite easier. So then I can see that this curves down again. Oh, I went a little far. And this curves to here. I can tell the bottom of the hand curves. Up to there, and then I have some changes happening here. But if you think about it now, if you look at how quickly I was able to make this arm, all the curvatures in it, look very similar to this one, it's only because I have that guide. You know, if you think about it, this line here, okay, that we drew is like these knuckles here. Well, that's obviously going to change greatly. So that's why I left this to last, because it'll allow me to kind of take a little bit more time and do it correctly. So I'm just using this as kind of a guide. And I'm making sure that, oh, I dropped my eraser, that after each stage or each line that I draw, I'm not just going to continue. I'm going to clean up what I've done so I don't get confused. Now let's see, this one comes over like so. Now the next stage of this drawing, I'm going to teach you guys about what's called shadow shapes. All right, some of you might be familiar with that. Some of you might not. But those shadow shapes are going to be really important in our drawing. And if I don't have this part correct, those shadow shapes aren't going to fit. So I really want to take my time here and make sure that this is correct. And I actually, this is close, but I still have quite a bit of work to do in that. So do you guys see how similar the line work is on this arm as it is to this arm? You guys see that? All right.